Hey, there you are. Welcome back to Hey Auto, where we build both types of cars, hot rods and customs. And occasionally we work on a daily driver too. That's what I've been doing. So I've been a little MIA, haven't been at the bench much. Been out in the shop, and I'm sitting in my shop recliner that I take a break in. So we're out in the shop. Been working on a Mama's Dodge minivan. It's got a leaky oil filter housing because, the geniuses at Dodge decided to make a unit that has coolant and oil running through it out of plastic. Awesome. So, of course, it's buried 9 miles deep under the intake, and you have to take just about everything off to get to it. So, that's where we are in our lives. However, I have been chopping tops. That's it. Chopping tops. So, let's talk about chop tops.
Right, chop tops. Most specifically, 33, 34 Ford chop tops. So I wanted to chop a 33 or 34 Ford. You might be saying to yourself, why would you do that? The ZZ Top Eliminator already comes chopped. That's true. That's a very nice traditional, chop for a 33, 34 Ford, as you can see. I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted a Bonneville style chop. And the reason I got this out is so you could see the difference between these two chops. This has the A-pillars laid back and is a little bit more severe. So you look at the windshield. The windshield's actually bigger in the Bonneville chop because it's laid back. You got that little mail slot rear window that I like so much. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do it like that. So the 33 Ford ZZ Top Eliminator wouldn't work. I wanted to try something different. That's why I did that. So I started with one of these tops. This is the old monogram 34 Ford from the 60s, and I had built the cabriolet because they came as a cabriolet or as a three-window coupe. And I had the coupe top left over. This particular build is about 20 years old, so this is a previous build from a long time ago, but I had another kit. I built the cabriolet, and then I had the coupe top left over because that's how they made these kits. The tops are separate. And I wanted to try a Bonneville chop. So here's some progress pics for you right now. One of the things you should note from the progress pics of this chop is that, as you probably saw, it started out as an absolute disaster, but I just kept picking away at it, and I think it turned out pretty good. So the Bonneville chop has to do with a severe hard chop, and then laying those A-pillars back like that for aerodynamics, for the dry lakes or the drag strip or whatever. So I had to lay those A-pillars back. I actually shortened the roof. I took a little bit of material out there to get the pillars back. And I actually opened up the windshield opening a little bit. Now I do have the windshield frame is chopped and ready to go, but it's in the box. I forgot to get it out. I opened it up, and then I kind of realized that it was opened up a little too much, so I added a little bit of material back here and then fit it perfectly to the window frame. If you'll notice in those progress pics, this is a nice curve here, but when I got started on it, it was more of like a little bit more squared off, and that's just kind of what happened. So what I ended up doing, which really gave me a lot of freedom, was just filing off all of the kit drip rail. The drip rail really dictated the shape of the door. And I was having some trouble using the panel scriber, getting those door lines back in. They were kind of wonky and squiggly, and they didn't look good. And so I was like, I'm just going to try taking them off completely and putting them back on with some styrene rod. And that was the best decision I ever made, because I was able to cover up the wonky door lines with the styrene rod, and I was able to pretty much decide how the shape of the door was going to look by putting the styrene rod in the shape that I wanted it to. So I super glue a little bit let it set up, super glue a little bit more, let it set up, super glue, and then shape it the way I wanted. I put a kind of a big piece on there, so I had to knock it down and actually blend it back in here into this body line and then fade it down into the A-pillar. That fixed a lot of problems because these doors were pretty squared off and they didn't match side to side. So putting the styrene rod back on there helped them match. And there's actually more that I did this. I had to replace this line, this body molding with styrene rod. I left it close to a fire. I know, stupid. And this got a little warpy. Heated it and fixed it, but then this little body line succumbed to the heat. So I had to replace it. I'm really shocked that this thing fits and it looks good again, because basically we had a roaring fire going and during a cold snap here in Texas, and the kids needed something urgently, as they always do. I set it down close to the fire and it was just too hot. Anyway, it looks good now. There's some of the inner workings. I always put a little bit of support when I'm gluing the top back together, just because there's going to be a lot of filing and sanding, and I have a tendency to bear down hard and break things, and so I built that up. The only like putty filler in this thing is right here. I put a little bit to kind of mold those drip rails in. The rest is just super glue and sanding. I don't like to use putty because it always shrinks on me inevitably. So I don't like to use it to fill gaps, but to just barely use it to kind of blend things, fill things in. So that is looking really good. And this build's going to be called the Parts Box Coupe, because I'm going to try to build it from the parts box. Now, one of the cool things that has happened is a buddy of mine named Kit Carson on the Model Car Forum gave me a hood for this thing. I don't know if you watched my videos, but I'm going to post over there a big thank you. So I have a hood now. I have half of a frame. For some reason, the frame that I have is hacked off here, so I think I know how I'm going to fix that. I've got a deck lid. I've got a grill, and the rest will just need to come from the parts box. So dropped axle, wishbones, rear end, wheels and tires. Oh, I've got a seat and door panels too. No dash. So this will be the Parts Box Coupe. One of the reasons I want to do that is because just some personal stuff going on. I've committed that I won't be buying any more kits for a long time. So I've got to make do with what I have, which is cool. I'm okay with that. I got lots of kits. I got lots of ideas. So the Parts Box Coupe is going to be built from the parts box. This body, I built this car 25 years ago. It was a chop through in a coupe, but it had all the 34 goodies on it. So it had bumpers and grill and all that. And most of it has frittered away, but I have the body, I have the deck lid, and part of the frame and part of the interior. I actually have the fenders too, but I'm not going to use those fenders. Parts Box Coupe, I don't know if it's going to be a dry lakes or a drag car or just a cool street car. I don't know, but that chop is wicked cool. That is a good looking roof, if I do say so myself. It was really tough just with the files trying to work these little reveals back in, and they're not perfect. You really don't want to look at them too closely, but sitting on a shelf with some paint on there, you won't even notice. I just love the proportions of it. I've been seeing this kit a lot lately on the YouTubes. Guys are building in buddy builds. Lucas C was talking about it a while back. It's got some cool parts in it. Blue Ox might be building one. 37 Ford Coupe, monogram Revell. Honestly, I never really liked the kit because it has proportion issues. The two-door sedan's not great either, but it's a little bit better. But the coupe just looks like a hunchback, and the real 37 coupes didn't look that hunchy. I feel like it's super tall between here and here. The windshield has issues. Anyway, I've had this kit in my stash for a while, and I didn't ever want to do anything with it because of the proportion issues. Even though, look, I've seen lots of cool builds of this kit. Guys are doing it justice. I'm just weird like that. So what happened is I was watching Bellows Custom. Now, if you're not subscribed to Bellows Customs on YouTube, you should be. And he chopped a 37 coupe. He actually did a time lapse of a 37 coupe, and I was like, I want to do that. So I chopped the Revell 37 coupe. So let's talk about this thing. First thing I did was get the body to fit these fenders a lot better. It was really doing this, like just not fitting right, and which even made the fact that this is so tall even worse. So I did a lot of filing and fitting and got it down. And I got it down so much that that is actually below the fender, which is good. I'm going to shave that. I'm not so sure. I may not actually section this, not to be custom, but just to help my eye with the proportions. I don't know. But I chopped this deal, and I also have a few progress pics too, so let's check those out. So this is a good shot of the cuts I made. You can see I isolated the back window, then cut through the C and the B's, but left the windshield intact first. And then I did the windshield and glued everything back together. You can see the light lines are where the super glue and baking soda is, so that translucent kind of opaque. You can see I had to fill in the quarter windows there, styrene rod for the drip rails, a little filler on the top where it dipped. I did have to lengthen the roof with no plastic, that's just super glue, and I remade the windshield to be a little bit more accurate, as I'll explain in just a moment. But I wanted you to see some pre-primer pics of the chop to kind of get an idea where the cuts were and how everything went together. So you saw the progress pics. I'll basically kind of go through what I did. So the first thing I did was I cut the rear window out itself, but I left it attached right here. The rear window was free. Then I cut the roof off through here, and across here. And I think I left the A-pillars for that time being. I cut out a quarter of an inch or so, whatever the tape I had that looked right. And what I did was line up these B-pillars. I lined up the B-pillars as my kind of point of reference, okay? Then I scribed and scribed and scribed and scribed down here under the rear window until it was very weak. And when it was good and weak, I was able to push it forward to meet the roof. I had to cut the roof a little bit. I actually cut it too much, so I had a gap to fill. I cut the A-pillars, and then I had a gap here. Now, normally I like to use another roof to fill those gaps, but I didn't have one. So I just used super glue and baking soda, and it works pretty good. I've heard that there might be some paint reactions years down the road, but I'm risking it. We'll see what happens. So I had to put a little bit in here, not much, and a little bit here for the back window to meet the roof proper. I don't know if you noticed in the progress pics or the progress video that this roof actually went down inside this C-pillar, and this window is actually a lot bigger, so it kind of went over here. So I had to fill this in here, and I had to fill this in here all with super glue and baking soda, and then after that I was filled in, I had to reshape this quarter window with the files. That was pretty much it. There was a dip in the roof, so it's got some filler right here, so there's just more like nice and round. It doesn't have a dip right here where the filler piece was. If I could do it again, I would take some of this out right here and lower that back window down and then lean it more forward so that there would be more of a swoop to it. It looks fine now. This is more stock, I'd say, but it's kind of got a hump here, kind of like a knot in the back of the head. Not terrible, but if I could have lowered that rear window down, I could have lowered it down, leaned it forward, and blended in the roof, and it would have been a lot more like, you know, swoopy right into the deck lid. I think that would have looked a lot better. But oh well, it was my first 37 Ford chop. Just like the 34, I learned my lesson, and I just went for it and didn't worry about the door lines, and then added new styrene rod drip rails after the fact, so I could make my door shapes how I wanted them, and that looks pretty good. I probably need a little filler in there because you can just see glue and then not glue. It's kind of not clean. The last thing I did was I remade the windshield. These 37s have a terrible windshield as far as 37 to 39 Fords. 37 to 39 Fords had a crank out windshield. They cranked out at the bottom, and they were stainless, their own stainless piece. They don't look right. I actually had a 39 Ford. Here's my 39 Ford I sold last year. So as you can see from the 37 that the kit 37 is not real. So what I did is I took this picture and I tried to recreate that, because even though this is a 39 Deluxe, 37, 8, and 9 had very similar, if not the same windshield frame. I'm not exactly sure about that. That it may or may not be, but even if it wasn't the same, the shape and the style was the same. So I really tried to copy a correct windshield frame. So that's why I made this windshield frame like this. It's a little bit proud. Probably should have used a smaller gauge of styrene rod, but it more accurately reflects that crank out windshield that these old Fords had. I really wish it was very flimsy because I really wanted to glue it together and then glue it cranked out, like open, in the finished model, but it was just too flimsy. I'm not sure how to, I probably can't make that happen. But anyway, so there's the Chop Top 37 Ford. I don't have any really plans for this right now. It's probably just going to go in a box for a while. I'm going to build the parts box 34, but it's going to get some skirts. I don't have any skirts though. Hey, you can help build this car. If you have the fender skirts for the AMT 39 or 40 Ford sedan, that would be cool. If you want to donate them to the project, I could trade something with you, or I can send you some of my daughter's cookie bites or a Hey Auto sticker or something. If not, I'll just figure something out, maybe make something out of flat styrene. But I really like those 39 40 Ford sedan skirts. I know most of you guys are building them as gassers and street rods, so you don't need those skirts. And they fit really nice on here because I put 39 to 40 sedan skirts on my 37 sedan, convertible sedan. Yeah, anyway, so hit me up if you have a set of those skirts. It's going to be a tail dragging custom, just like what Bello built. Go watch Bello's Customs. He is an artiste when it comes to metal. So there it is, Chop Tops 37. Oh, I've got one more thing I want to chop that I haven't chopped yet. So I may not build anything. I might just keep chopping something. I want to chop this 40 convertible. I want to pretty much copy Kit Bash Customs. I want to chop this and do a nice, swoopy top, because I really want to build a 40 convertible as a cool old custom. So guys, what do you think of the Chop Tops? I think they turned out pretty good. I like the 34 better than the 37, but the 37, I mean, I wouldn't kick that out of the bench. I wouldn't kick that out of the modeling room. That's looking pretty killer. I think, dragging the ground in the back with some full skirts, wide whites, and some caddy caps, I think that thing will look pretty good. The 34, definitely hot rod, big motor, but it's going to have a full hood, needs to have a full hood. And I don't know if I'm going salt flats with that or like fuel coupe or something like that. But that, to me, that chop just is mean. That thing looks tough. It's all that A-pillar slanted back, I think. And that mail slot rear window. Actually opened that rear window a little bit. It was a little too mail slotty and didn't look quite right. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for coming by. Appreciate all the support. Take care.